the topic, and the speaker is Minakshi balKrishna. I would like to give a short introduction. She is a postgraduate in economics from Stella Medical College, College in Chennai, and has a bachelor in education. Currently, she is pursuing her research in education and management from the Academy of Human Resources Development in Ahmedabad. She worked in Ahmedabad International School as a head of international baccalaureate and primary years program, and she retired as executive director of the school. After retirement, she conducts many workshops. She travels extensively across India, and she has been an advisory body to many schools. So her passion at this stage is to teach teachers how to teach. So she is a wonderful teacher, and today we are going to listen about mindfulness and how to be well, or about our well-being. Over to you, Minakshi Madam.
It's always wonderful to start Stories to Tell with this lovely introduction given by you. I think one of the topics that is very close to my heart is well-being and mindfulness. And over the years, I've been reading, and I find it's having a profound impact on my life and the people around me as well. And what little I share is also bringing some joy in their lives. And I thought, what better way than to share my thoughts with all of you. And that is the objective of Stories to Tell, started by Dr. Tejas Nayak and Dr. Dhiren Ganjwala. And the reason why we wanted to do this is to initiate a discussion, or even a thought that triggers and takes you back for a discussion, or that you want to pursue some of it again. So that is the whole purpose of Stories to Tell, of like-minded people to have various topics discussed under this particular forum. So the very quest for man's happiness has been from time immemorial. People are always wanting to know, how best can I be happy? And when you see someone happy, it's almost, what is it that makes that person so happy? Is there a special ingredient? Is there a potion? Are there medicines? So what is it that makes them happy? Now, if you go to any store, or even you go to any place where you find on Amazon or Kindle, you'll find a list of self-help books. They capture a large part of the audience that wants to know more and more about the books that will bring about some transformation in their lives. And someday it will probably bring an impact in their well-being as well as their happiness. So which book will you choose from the books that are there on that bookshelf? So which one will you choose? And there are so many, and there are so many different ways of talking about the same thing once again. So happiness is like a cup of tea. There are various ways of making it, and how you brew it depends entirely on you. But the reason why we talk about happiness and which one to choose is because there is a happiness mantra which probably brings in joyful attention or awareness. Stoic Seneca, I would like to quote, says that it is ruinous for the soul to be anxious about the future and miserable in advance of misery. For such a soul will never be at rest by longing for things to come. It will lose the ability to enjoy the present things. And that is which book you select depends entirely on you. And maybe the book that you've chosen still doesn't reach where you need to reach. So you might again go back to yet another book. And then across the country, you have gurus and swamis and what have you, and suggesting so many workshops or ways in which to transform your life. A guru you need, everything you need to know, and then they will make profound statements and quotes every day. If you resist change, you resist life. And these profound statements also sort of help in understanding yourself. In fact, most of the gurus try to ask you, find yourself. So what kind of meditation, what kind of guru will you choose, which kind of book will you choose? And there are so many ways of doing it. If you look at mindfulness and meditation, spiritual meditation, focused meditation, I've heard of pebble meditation, mountain meditation, with mantra meditation, very, very, very popular in India, transcendental meditation, and loving kindness meditation. So what kind of meditation is best for you? What will you do to discover yourself? But on one side, you have the mind, and you're talking about a spiritual well-being or a state of equanimity. On the other side, you need to work, you need to have a work-life balance, and the news comes up with some more bad news about the war, about so many people who've lost their jobs, or there are certain other ways of sickness or another COVID variant coming and lurking in our lives, and the bad news about how we going to save, or the interest rates have gone up, the stock market has gone up, there is a difference just because of a change in the government in UK. All of this makes an impact on your life, and that stresses you. How to remove that stress? How will you bring that balance in your life? How will you be in a state of calmness? So what are your thoughts? When you say awareness and aware, I'm aware of something. But here I'm talking about awareness of yourself. How much are you aware about yourself, and how best can you handle yourself? What is the knowledge you have about your body, about your mind, and what are your feelings? What is your emotional quotient? What is your spiritual quotient? What is your physical quotient? And that is really important for us to understand our mind. So what is the experience of mindfulness? So what is it all about? And that brings us to a very important part, and that is hope. Hope is the feather that reminds us that we have wings. But why I put this picture here is to suggest that the Egyptians way back talked about a balance of their life, that how pure their life will be. The goodness of their heart would be as light as a feather, and that you could go to the other world only when your heart is balanced with a feather. And so imagine if you have to be so pure and just as light as a feather, how best will you take it forward? So we have wings and we have hope. We can always fly and reach out to whichever place you want to. And then it brings us to a whole lot of pictures that remain etched in your mind. Whenever you've gone on a holiday to the mountains and you see a picture like that, it brings you a certain amount of calmness. What is it that comes to your mind? It talks about magnanimity, it talks about achievement, it talks about success, it talks about solid foundations on which the mountain rests. It talks about exploring, it talks about reaching the summit to the highest. It all depends on equating the mountain to success and how best you can be successful. But what kind of success? Are we talking about success within ourselves, in our jobs, or success as a person within myself? If you look at this beautiful picture and you can see the rays of the sun will always shine. Every morning it's there. It never fails us. But what is it that tells us the secret behind walking through the forest is becoming close to nature? When we are close to nature, we can see a state of bliss and somehow very, very ethereal in its own nature. And why is it so? Because it is untouched, unmatched, and it is pure. The purity of that particular forest brings that connection with you because you, by nature, are natural. And look at this beautiful picture once again. It is about the water which is never still. Your mind is also like the waters. It flows from the mountains and goes right to the ocean, but it meanders through the valleys and dales and then reaches the ocean. Through that path comes your mind. Your mind is wavering like the waters, but there is a certain amount of calmness as well when the water reaches and becomes a big old river and reaches the ocean. And there is a certain amount of balance of the ocean as well. So the rivers also give you so much of tranquility in your mind. And the best, of course, flowers and the fragrance of the valleys. This is a valley of flowers. And look at it, just bountiful nature. So these are pictures. When you look at these places, when you go to these places, there is a certain amount of connect, immediate connect. And that connect is because you are part of nature. You are part of this cosmos. You are part of this huge universe. So I come to the main part of my talk today, and that is about mindfulness. Mindfulness is bringing awareness to the present moment. It is paying attention in a particular way. And it was propounded by this person called John Kabat-Zinn, who said, nothing else but bringing awareness to the present moment. Right now, you're listening to my talk. You enjoy listening to the talk without being judgmental, without thinking about what questions to ask, just developing that attention to that talk. So all your muscles relax and just be there at the present moment. It's also recognizing your thoughts. The minute your thoughts go somewhere else, it's like a little monster inside you. It goes away. So you grab it and bring it back to the present moment. And your body sensation, the minute you look at something and which is not very pleasant, there are body sensation which brings in anger, or you may not be happy about it. So what are those ways in which you would calm yourself and pay attention by being non-judgmental? Bringing in a certain amount of compassion and kindness. How best can you be kind and compassionate to everyone around you? And being non-judgmental. Now, this is very difficult for a lot of people, because the only way in which I can suggest or probably bring that argument would be people with their differences can also be right. So you have a point of view and I have a point of view, and both of us are right. So we can agree to disagree. And that would be how non-judgmental you can be. So mindfulness is about paying attention and bringing awareness to the present moment. Now, when you look at the various alterations of how we construct awareness, there is a certain amount of transformation and experiential training in developing and monitoring the mind and the body. How best can you bring it that mindfulness? So I would like to share a story with you. And this story is very simple. It's about a crystal cup. The Zen master was given a beautiful crystal cup by one of his students. Now, it was with such joy that the master took it, and then he saw a smile crack, but still he loved it and shared it with everyone. Every time he would look at the cup and he would tell his students that this cup was given to me by my student, and was very happy and would drink his tea from that cup. One day, somebody just nudged him and the cup fell down and the cup broke. When the cup was smashed into tiny pieces, the visitors were shocked and they looked at it. He said, no, it's okay. Let's begin. He picked up a broom and started sweeping. And so what is he sweeping? Now, it is a metaphor for life. So when there are things which are there in your mind, where there are things inside your heart, which you need to take a broom and brush it, start sweeping. Things which are not pleasant for you to keep. Things like envy, jealousy, anger, remove all of them and just see how best you could be. And so how do you disconnect yourself with some of those things at the same time being in the present? So the broken crystal cup. But what is the answer to it? It just means that half of happiness is being okay with what you don't get. Now, I think I know what the other half is. It's being okay with losing what you have, because some of the things you want to remove. So the man who remembers to be grateful for his possessions is the one who is ahead of most people. And so how would you go ahead and how would you flow and thrive in life? So it's a person who knows how to choose and stop with that loss and go ahead. So then comes the major part. What is it? Is it to be mindful of things, or is it mindful? So we are looking at two parts of the brain where we talk about, when you look at mindful of, look at roti kapra, makan, bangla, gadi, all of that, money, everything, my family. And then you look at being mindful. It's a state where you are in bliss with nature, in bliss with the universe. So where did mindfulness come from? It evolved in the Buddhist tradition of meditation by John Kabat-Zinn, and he developed a program called Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. It's called the MBSR, And it talks about breathing in a particular way and thereby bringing in certain amount of calmness in your mind and aware of the present. Oxford University also developed the MBCT, and that was mostly for medical patients, for patients who had mental disorders, depressions, anxiety, and therefore how to help them to recover and become well once again. So John Kabat-Zinn's research brought in an 8-week program, and the program, once you got into the program, people were a lot more happier, they were more energized, they were more in control of their lives, they were able to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. And then it was talking about being less stressed and how best could it be when you are happy at that state of mind. And it was talking about an approach. Rather than avoiding things, it's an approach that encourages you to be in a state of mindfulness. So mindfulness is very simple. How you breathe in and out. You could be writing. You could just be sitting and breathing for a few seconds to begin with, and then probably a longer. And that retrospection, the introspection brings in lots of thoughts in your mind and how you will be able to answer those thoughts. So those thoughts which lie in your mind, because it's a thought that changes how you look at things, and the thought that brings in what you want to. So you will look at something and you will believe that it is because of what you think is happening right now. So mindfulness is paying attention to your mind, body, and the present moment. Give feelings to space and time. Give that little moment of time. And then you can always sort of justify and say, I have no time. It's just like you need to shower, you need to have your lunch and dinner. How will you spare that little moment, little time for yourself to create that mindfulness and become part of your life? So you could meditate and focus on one thing at a time, exercise and keep your body fit. Slow down if you need to, because if it's too much, prioritize on what you have to do, and that would be. So what I want to share with you is not something prescriptive or diagnostic. It's just stating what is already being told by several people. And I believe there's also a group of some people who, in this group, who also conduct these classes. So really nice to know that. So there's a toolbox. Mindful eating, mindful art, mindful. So mindfulness does not mean you have to sit in a posture of meditation and close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out. Mindfulness talks being mindful and aware at every point in time. And that is about visualizing, to be happy. To start with, I want to be happy. You make a statement, you visualize how you want to be happy, when you want to be happy, and what are those areas in which you would go to that process of being happy. Mindful eating, will mindful eating help in my physical way in which will it help in my body, which will help in my way in which I look at some of the diseases. So mindful eating, mindful music. It's also about a self-reflection of what's happening. There might be sorrow, but how will I look at that sadness in a very different way? Mindful movement, and thereby I would also look at moral storytelling, mindfulness, meditation in all these. So it's all right. So the benefits of mindfulness also becomes like restores like childlike wonder. It improves relationships. It may help in lower blood pressure. It improves cognition. So these are all facts which we already know about. It boosts immunity because when the body is without any stress, it's able to bring in a certain amount of satisfaction and improves the quality of sleep. It increases empathy. You become altruistic. Suddenly you realize that you're able to share a lot of things with people because you want to give that happiness to others as well. So when you meet a person like that, you will get joy in meeting that person because that person makes you happy. So there is an aura behind those people where you will feel that those people are the ones who bring that joyfulness in your life as well. So I love to meet that person because whenever I meet her, she's so cheerful, she's so happy. And that happiness, you percolate. It sort of permeates into the rest of the people in that sense of the term. Now, if you look at the mindful-based stress reduction program, the psychological health and the stress reactivity, how it reduces that and improves the productivity. So we're talking about it is big business. People across the world are doing several programs on this because one of the most important factors is it improves productivity. So business houses are very clear that they need to have a happy group of people to see that they work well. At the same time, we don't want sickness around. So how to remove sickness? Because what's in your mind is what's in your body. And so what are those turnovers and errors that would bring about mindfulness? And thereby mindfulness now become big business across the world. But what happens is there is a thinking that goes wrong. Obviously, this is a sculpture by Rodin, and there's an aversion and reactivity. You don't like something, you don't like some people around you, you hate some countries, you love some countries. There is a stress and habitual coping of strategies. Constantly you're looking at some of the things that are not going well for you. And those are unhelpful thinking patterns because contemplation and over contemplation, oh, what will happen to the future? Or what will I pass my exams? Or will I get through my interview? Will I have enough money for the rest of my life? Will my family be safe and happy? Oh, there's an earthquake somewhere. Will there be an earthquake in Ahmedabad as well? So you're all the time overanalyzing things around you. Or do you think the relationship is not okay because you overanalyze, oh, they didn't smile at me, I didn't smile at her, or she turned away. These are all overthinking patterns. Just let go and they're fine. And you don't have to think about it because you don't have to be judgmental about people. And then the most difficult part with most women, men across the world have got catastrophic thinking, which means there's a war in Ukraine and you get worried about the people who are dying there, and that leaves an impact on you. There are people who are dying because of coronavirus, that has an impact on you. So how you will feel something about those people around, but then to go to a state where there is no rebound, that also makes things very difficult for you to have a balance. And the negative bias, how you look at people, how you look at things, and inconsistency. Sometimes it might be right for you, sometimes it may be wrong for you. So your thinking patterns are what you are for what you think. So my past, my present, and my future. So what is it that you have? Mark Twain said something very beautiful. He said, I had lots of worries in my life, most of which never happened. So this is a profound statement because you're worrying so much, but most of those worries did not happen at all. But then still, every time you think of it, there are worries across to bother and constantly keep worrying about worrying. And what is it that I'm not worrying about? So that's one of the things. And I really love this quote because it sort of sums the very basis about the very fact that you have to live in awareness and live in the present. Now, you might be wondering why wellness, well-being, mindfulness are all part of the whole cosmos. And that is because if you have a healthy body, it is an expression and gratitude to the whole cosmos, the trees, the clouds, everything, and around the universe, how it is having an impact on your life. So what is it why is your body important? Because you are born on this earth and you are born part of that cosmos. And so keeping yourself, your body and your mind healthy is an expression of gratitude to that cosmos or whatever you can call it, the universe or God. And of course, now it comes to the major part. All these kind of think positively, exercise, you should eat healthy, all these cliched ones, work smart, not work hard, sleep well, laugh a lot, have good friends around you, keep things simple. These are already there. But what is it that makes you stuck? What is it that's stopping you? Are you in a state of mind where you are in tandem with the rest of the things around yourself? So it doesn't have to be somewhere else. So I now like to share another story with you about moving to a new town. So there was a Zen master and he said, I'm thinking of moving out of the town. And he said, oh, so what is it like in that town? What was it like? So, well, this town is dreadful. It was horrible. People were hateful. I didn't like it one bit. So the Zen master said, then please don't come here. I don't think you should move over here. Then another man comes in and he said, I think I'm moving to this town. The Zen master asked, how was your town? He said, oh, the town was very friendly and happy, and everyone is in a state where they're sharing with each other. And I just loved it because there was such a joyful vigor in that whole state of the town. And the Zen master said, yes, you must move in because you will like it here. So it all depends on how you look at things. So what we seek is what we find. If you look at happiness, you will get happiness. If you want joy, you will get joy. The reasons why you do what you do matters as much as what you end up, because that's how they shape how you seek. Ultimately, they also determine what you find, because it sort of channelizes you to move towards what you want to think and find what you want to seek. Now, looking at the words that are floating around, a word cloud of well-being, you'll notice it's harmony, it is attitude, it is balance, it's creativity, it's exercise, it's inspiration, it is regeneration, it is the positivity, it's about dreaming, it's about being aware, it's about being lively, and how it's like the joie de vivre. What is it that well-being states? And that is somewhere where all these words together bring in one state of mind, and that is body, mind, and soul. But as scriptures had talked about origins of three components, and then they talked about something very simple, with a mind to meditate on being the prana. It came in the Kaushiki Upanishad and talks about mindfulness as the dhyana parampara, derived in as mindfulness. So way back in our Upanishad, so many years ago, we're talking about 5000 BC to 3500 BC, Ishvara Krishna, who wrote in the Samkhya philosophy, talked about mindfulness as well. And they talked about remedial measures of well-being, and remedial measures of well-being by way of removing those ailments. Even by chanting mantras, you can remove a disease completely. By contemplation and by meditation, you can remove the disease from your body. So how did the spiritual upliftment start or move about? And they talked about Shravan, or to listen, and the Manamasa, and they're talking about the deep state without joy or grief, or the Nidhi Dhyana Sama, that is the state of being beyond, and also the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which talks about a state of mind that exists beyond the limitations of space and time and consciousness. So what is your consciousness? Where is your consciousness? What is the connect between yourself and consciousness? And so the attainment of Advaita, or your Atman, or your Brahman, which is propounded by Adi Shankara in his Viveka Chudamani, who also talks about non-dualism. He says that there is nothing like, you are the presence, you are what you are, and you are that single Atma, you are that in union with God. And so the mindfulness occupies a central place in all our scriptures, and they talk about the Atma and the Brahman in the Sanatana tradition. So you can see that from delusion lead me to truth, from darkness lead me to light, from death lead me to immortality. So they talk about the various chakras of the body, and they have discovered, and each of it has a writing on its own. So the cosmology and the dynamic tension which is there in the mind are made up of three, and that is the mind, the indriya, that means the senses, and the bhuta, that means the gross elements or the concrete body. And there are chakras which right across the body, which control certain parts of your body. So it is created by various other aspects, and that energy is in the astral spine, and the spine gives the energy. And so they talk about I am divine, Aham Brahmasi, and I am that, Tattvamasi, and thou art that. And that talks about how the whole body talks about the various chakras, and each of the body parts have got a certain aspect of how to clear that ailment as well, and the body, mind, and soul. So there are, of course, the Eastern and the Western philosophies which also talk about the four elements or the techniques of liberation of the mind. And yoga is part of it. And there are four components or four elements. And what are those elements? It's air related to the mind, which is the intellect, part of the human nature. It is water related to the soul and composed of emotions, wisdom, and energy. It's also about earth connected to body, which is about caring for the physical well-being, and fire, which is connected with inspiration, which is caused the actual healing. So these are the four elements which yoga talks about. And then you have the chakras, which also yoga talks about. But the Greeks talked about balance of the body and nature, and that the body attracts and repels. So what you attract, you will receive. What you repel, you will give away. But the transformation of matter or the body is the manifestation of the human body, depends upon 5 parts. And there's the earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And the liberation of the mind depends when you transform yourself to another state of mind. And therefore, there are similarities between the Eastern philosophers who took the art of balancing mind, body, and soul. And on the other hand, the Greeks sought to balance the elements of body to discover about science and medicine. So the result of both was to heal the body for better imagination, relaxation, and awakening of the soul. And why do we need to awaken the soul? Why can't we just be the way we are? Awakening of the soul or for yourself, it is about understanding yourself to the best of your ability. Now, the Vedic proponents were with mind, meditate on me as being prana or the breath. When they talked about breath, they talked about the meditative process of the subtle mind. And that is what it's called as mindfulness, or being aware. And it occupies the central place of the holistic approach towards the oneness or the Atman with the Brahman. That means yourself with the cosmos. And now comes another aspect to it from Buddhism. Buddhism comes along with Bodhisattva, a person who is towards the path of awakening. So when you talk about Bodhisattva, we're talking about how to awaken the buddhi and the knowledge and also the wisdom, and then comes in the intellect where you bring in the enlightenment. With that comes again the Vedic part where they talk about the Jnana Deva to Kaivalyam, which means it's a basis of the intellect. The path leads to intellect of understanding your mindfulness, about that awareness. The Vedic tradition is the foundation of mindfulness and jnana or intellect. And if you look at the chakras, it talks about I am, and then it talks about I feel. When you say I am, it talks about the earth, and then it talks about the earth instincts. The instincts are about security, about survival, about grounding. When you talk about I feel, it's a sense of self. It talks about the water component or the element of water. When you talk about fire, it talks about willpower, purpose, strength, and the purpose is I do, or the Manipura, or the solar plex. Then we move on to air, which is based on the heart or the anahata heart, which is anahata, and that is love, compassion, acceptance. And then comes your next element, that is ether, which talks about communication, creativity, and resonance, which is the vidisuddha, which is you speak, and that becomes communication. And then comes your light, which is your element of light, which talks about perception, intuition, and imagination. And then that comes in at the brow, and that which you can see. Finally comes the Sahasra, or the crown, or the ultimate knowledge or spiritual wisdom, which talks about I know and I am wise within myself. And that is my perception, my intuition, and my way of thought, which leads me to that component of the mind. Now just see, so many years ago, we've got people who have written all of this, and now it comes packaged from the West as mindfulness, and then we are taking it straight away. But it was Adi Shankara who talked about the Upanishads and the non-dualism, Advaita, and that talks about where he says that it is one presence, one soul, and one body. And that's the way in which you will be remove the veil of ignorance. Now, what is that ignorance? Is again understanding yourself, of what is your purpose. Because what is your purpose of life when you have been born here? What do you want to do? And like I said earlier, there is a feather of hope, and you can always, you've got wings to fly. But when you look at all of this, the most important part is, the most important part is the anxiety disorders, the other mood disorders, schizophrenic, other use disorders. All this happens before the age of 24. This is data given by the United Nations, and that 75% of adult mental disorder has its onset before 24 years. Now, post-COVID, suddenly people have just realized that it's so important for us to understand our mind more than our body, and that is going to make ourselves healthier to approach and face the challenges and the tribulations of life. So what does that happen? And that is the post-COVID sessions of school, which is called What is .B. And you'll see that all these sessions are being taken in school and the United Kingdom, where UK talks about paying attention, taming the animal mind, recognizing, being here and now, moving mindfully, stepping and watching your thoughts, and then befriending the difficult, whatever problems you have, befriend it, be brave, taking in the good, being present with your heart, and also putting it all together, or pulling it all together, your hopes, exams, dreams, fears, and your stress. So they have a program to share with the children how to face this and to cultivate mindfulness. Now, neuroscience is amazing. Your mind is got 1 billion neurons, and it's like a tapestry of the carpet, where it's got so many thoughts and desires and aspects of perceptions or visualizations of your life. But the best part is you will be able to have the ability to rewrite, and that is what it's called neuroplasticity, because the brain has got the capacity to change habits, change behaviors, and reactions. So a daily mindfulness practice can help achieve, because your mind has got the capacity, or your brain has got the capacity to face these kind of challenges. So where do we start here? We have several other aspects, and one of them could be even pebble meditation. So you have pebbles, you look at the pebbles on water and then meditate for some time, and you'll be able to have a profound impact on the person. Now, when we look at mindfulness and well-being, the well-being is all about yourself as a human being, how well you are. And the definition of joy and the will to be one's true self. The Stoic believed that it was the virtue is the path to happiness. Sigmund Freud felt that to be healthy is the ability to love, work, and play. He gives tools to understand the unconscious psyche. Bertrand Russell talks about a zestful engagement with what the world has to offer, using one's skill and constructing something worthwhile. In fact, he even says, learn an art, learn craft, have a hobby. And it is a beautiful book called The Conquest of Happiness, where he says that you should be happy, because why should you be unhappy? Because you're born to be happy. So be joyful and enjoy that. The United Nations talks about the report of happiness, and what are those variables which makes you unhappy? And that could be because you're worried about income, education, employment status, relationship with a partner, physical and mental health. So the determinants of happiness and misery revolve around these various variables, the 6 variables, which the United Nations has had a report on happiness. So stress is the source of stress? What could it be? Appropriate anecdotes, stories weave around, substantiate the external and internal stresses. Somebody's life impacts us. How does it manifest in our daily life? How does it creep into our daily life? You read something, you saw something. So what can I do to create a happy life? And what will be the outer or the inner realms of my life? What is my happiness mantra? What is my happiness quotient? How can I introspect and take an objective view of handling these stressors? So going further, there are 3 types of stress. Stressed individuals either have anxiety about the future, or grief of the past, or discomfort about the future. The external and internal stressors lead to poor behavioral responses, giving rise to a vicious cycle of escalating stressors. So it's like, because you got stressed, it goes on and on, trickling down and more and more and more. And then that becomes difficult to come out of that stress. But just a simple example of what coronavirus, and then people were so paranoid that they refused to come out of the house, refused to touch things, refused to get people into their houses. And they lived in a little bubble thinking that they will be safe. And that triggered into more stress and more problems of into their lives. So it can escalate as well as it can be a vicious circle. So the happiness mantra is to engage in joyful attention. Observe an object in front of you and notice the details. Just look at those pictures which I showed you about the mountains, the rivers, the valleys, and then the flowers. How it is caused. Wonder what happened, what will happen to those mountains, what will happen to those beautiful forests when it sort of is etched in your memory. And what will be those changes when you look at them? How will it have an impact on your life? But now I'm talking to an audience where people know so much about medicine. I thought I must bring in some part of a biochemical markers of well-being as well. And that would be the biochemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And these chemicals help in well-being. And then you have the endocannabinoids. They're also called bliss molecules, which help in feeling good. Then you have the GABA molecules, which is also helping people to lower down anxiety. And this is prescribed as a sedative. And then there's adrenaline, or the energy molecule, which is an antidote to boredom and provides rush of energy and makes you alert. And so these are all the biochemical markers, which are other than the medical association of the molecules or medicines that are available. Now the Japanese are also talk about mindfulness, and it's the conception of life's purpose, and they talk about ikigai. So ikigai is very simple. It is to be alive. Iki means alive or life, and gai means benefit or worth. What is your life worth? Why are you alive? What benefits do you get just to be alive? So what is it that you love so much? What is it that the world needs? Are you great at it? And what are you paid for it? So when you combine, you love it and you are paid for it, then it becomes your mission. When you love it and you are great at it, it becomes your passion. When the world needs it and you're paid for it, it becomes your vocation. And also when you're great at it and you're paid for it, it becomes your profession. So Ikigai talks about life's purpose and the means and the reason to live. When one has found the Ikigai, there is no longer stress or strain in striving. And you will see that when you go to Japan and you see the country itself, you can find there's a purpose of life there because they're so calm and composed. Of course, the Holocaust has given them several sermons about what not to do in their lives. But it is also mindfulness in eating, cultivating pro-social behaviors, being with people who are happy with you, talking about nature walks or walking or trekking to the mountains, collective prayers, mantras, saying, sitting quietly and chanting, shows that you are grateful to where you belong and where you are, and that awareness which helps you in that well-being. So that's what Ikigai does to people. But then, of course, you have, each one of us would have a happiness mantra. What is your happiness mantra? Happiness mantra is happiness and well-being. It's a sense of eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is nothing but a good spirit, a happiness, a state of condition of a good spirit or happiness or welfare. And it is talking about peace, tranquility, and happy in life in anticipation of what we see. So we're talking about right now, what we anticipate is what we look. So today, from whatever little talk I have given, if something, there is one takeaway, there is your happiness mantra, you make your own and you take that away. And that is what your happiness mantra would be. And so I should not forget about the African Hakuna Matata. It talks about don't worry, be happy. The pursuit of happiness lies in an innate being of being what it means to be human. So after all, who does not want to be happy? And that's what I would say. It's important for us to have small measures of joy, to have great wellness and a great body, mind, and soul. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I think
thank you,
right
madam,
now
for...
I'll be looking at more of your mantra, because this is just an introductory talk and it is just some of the things that I've collated together. So I think everyone will have their point of view and I would be happy. And I think here I see Dr. Jawahar, who's like a body of knowledge in this particular topic. So I think I should straight away ask him to answer all my questions which come to me. But I think what I believed is that to initiate a state of well-being, and I wanted to share this because it's very close to my heart. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, madam, for Jawahar bhai, your
yes,
comments
Minakshi,
and question.
yes, very, very good. And we can see that handful of people can think about this. Only 13 people are attending this. And that is what is very, very important. There are very few who are interested, which is the root and the basics and the most profound important thing which we are seeking. But very few people are there. So talk is really very good and it is really giving inclination to learn more about, explore more about us. And you have covered, I mean, all aspects of not only the scientific part, but also religious part, the practicality, the philosophy and all those things. I have no specific question. The only thing which is subtly, which is still left is the mind is not we. So when we know that we are not mind, why to talk about mindfulness? Because we know that we are happy or unhappy. If we are witnessing happiness or unhappiness, that means we are not happy or unhappy. That I is able to witness whether you are sorrowful or happy or whatever, that I has nothing to do with all these things. So basically a subtle part which is left out is ultimately when the instrument of question is kept aside, where is the question? Because what we know as that is what exactly is just a little like whatever are the chakras, they belong to mind or body. And I am not mind. I am not body. So it doesn't affect me at all whether it is that knowledge or this knowledge. But this is how once we discuss, we explain all the things, our mind, our thought starts on that side. So this is very much essential and I'm very happy that you brought this particular subject and started getting everybody into it. Good, very good. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, madam, I have a question. Like you covered this really well, but like a novice like me who has not really ventured into this field, if I want to start, how should I start? So I'm looking for the practical tips.
Yeah. So for me, first thing is to be non-judgmental. First, to accept what is around you.
How to accept that?
Yeah, to disconnect. There is some fight going on. You disconnect yourself with that thought process. You can give your suggestions, but you can be non-judgmental. Like I said earlier, people with their differences can also be right. So everybody's got a point. If there is plant which grows under the sun. There is enough place under the sun. So we don't need to bring in our ego. We don't need to bring in our id, as they say psychologically, and then bring in that aspect of it. We can be non-judgment to begin with. And whatever is irritating you, you just disconnect. What you don't like, let the blessings be then. I think that's the easiest way to start. Even if you start like this, I think it would go very, very far. Even just starting from today, even, talking about the traffic. So I have a friend of mine who's in Bangalore, who takes almost an hour to reach home because of the traffic. So there are times where there are like 20 minutes, he's just at halt. And that's when he sings and he records and he sends it to us, instead of about cribbing about the traffic. So I'm just giving you an example about how to initiate that, not to find fault, not to talk about the country, the people, you name it. You can be grumbling about everything under the sun. So first is becoming non-judgmental. That would really help. So it's not that I cannot suggest something to you. If you come forward and you ask me for a decision, what do you think I should do? I should be able to say that. Whether you accept it or not accept it is your take on it. Another one would be chanting. If you like to chant, or you just listen to some music. Like mindfulness can be anywhere. Like I had suggested a toolbox there. You can be listening to music. You can be watching. You can be reading. You can be doing mindful eating also. It can be anything. Whatever removes that stress from you, that would be the best way to start. So what gives you joy? So the Ikigai is all about what gives you joy. What are you passionate about? So your job is there. Do you really love your job to be where you are? Are you in a state where you can think of another profession right now? So there are various opportunities. You can start writing something that could also be mindful in nature. That's the easiest way to start.
Yeah, and like, how does optimism fits into this concept?
So optimism starts straight from the mind. How optimistic about it's again about looking at the glass. Is it half empty, half full? Or am I looking at a glass which is half full? So looking at whether to be pessimistic or optimistic is again accepting what is around you. So I'm happy to be where I am. That doesn't mean that you don't have aspirations, or where you don't have ways in which you look ahead of life, what you want to achieve. You will want to achieve, but then this will help you to think about yourself, what you want to visualize and what you want to do. The minute you start being judgmental, all your energies is going up outside yourself. You're not focusing on yourself. You're thinking about somebody else who's done better than you. Now, who is the richest man on this planet? How does it matter to me? So what matters to me is what I want to do and my purpose of life. Man's eternal quest for life has been to be happy. It's time immemorial to be happy. It's being joyful in that state of mind.
Okay, then I have a concern. Like, healthy competition is always good for the growth, because like you, say, compare yourself with others, realize that I am not at a desired level, and then you improve upon your existing level. So how does that fits into this, like, say, competitiveness, how far it is okay and how far it becomes detrimental to our happiness?
It's very simple. It's like running a race. You run the race as best and how quickly and fast you can. But you don't look at the back and see whether he's coming behind me or not, or he's ahead of me. You have to run the race and touch the end of the race. So how quickly, how fast you run the race. It's not about others. But how the other person, how can I learn from you? I can learn punctuality from you. I can learn that, oh, this is a fantastic craft that you have in your medical field, that you have a particular craft which I can learn from you. But I'm not jealous of you. The minute I bring in jealousy, I'm again diluting my energy to something which is negative, rather than learning from you and being happy. And then you're most willing to give. That happiness pours into that optimism as well.
then in your lecture, you describe a few of the courses, probably they are going at UK. So
Yeah.
have you implemented such courses in Ahmedabad when you were the principal of the school?
No, we didn't have something like mindfulness. We had like thought for the day. We had value education, and we had what is called a learner's profile, where you are a thinker, an inquirer, you're a communicator. So all these aspects would come into a daily lesson, and how you incorporate it as part of your lesson. So it talked about sustainability, or you're talking about being generous with people, how to be helpful, how to be grateful. So that would be part of the lesson itself. At the end of the lesson, we would look at our profile and which profile best fits for us to understand that. And then it would be more like value education. So we did incorporate it. Now in a very big way, post-COVID, a lot of schools have been doing that. Post 2020, that is NEP 2020, there is a certain part, again taken from the scriptures, which is being introduced in most schools for value education. And it's coming as mindfulness itself, well-being. So,
Yeah, Shrenik Bhai.
Shrenik Bhai has question.
No, I really appreciate the way in which you have, narrated the whole thing, and it has really, touched every aspect. I entirely agree. The only thing which, as a personal, I tried to do meditation and all. The only thing is that I have not been able to do consistently. I agree that what you said was like very useful, that it is not that you have to meditate, but it is an ongoing process. So that is a very well taken thing, that whatever you do, if you are mindful, then you are in a state of meditation. And that is what I learned from, people who are like, have gone spiritually at some level, wherein you see them, then they are happy in every moment. And they would sign, like in your case also, I always see you smiling and very happy. So I really appreciate that people who are actually meditating every moment are constantly happy, and that is a good take, rather than actually sitting down and doing meditation, which I am not able to do it consistently. But still, now I made it a practice, rather than being righteous, and as you said, compare yourself with others. It is up to you that how you grow yourself, and what is the purpose of your life. And when you actually have a passion in whatever you do, probably that goes a long way, and that makes you happy. And I think that is the crux of the life.
Yeah, very well said, Dr. Shrenik. It's really true. And you are a yoga expert, so you know more than me about all these things. I was just giving you a skeleton, and I think Dr. Jawahar would tell you it is an ocean. I just showed one of my slides where they're like self-help books, and you have so many gurus, so many places to go to. Every place there is somebody, because that has become the order of the day. Everyone wants a state of tranquility. Everyone wants to be calm. Everyone wants to be joyful. But how can you be that when you have all the other aspects and challenges of life? So how to face them? Yes, Dr. Jawahar.
What I have understood, or I have taken up a point, is there is no need to be happy. There is no need to become happy. You are.
Yes, absolutely.
There is nothing like you do something and be happy. You just discover you are happy.
Yeah.
And the
That's
starting is yes, it is a discovery rather than approaching. There is no approach, there is a discovery. So you just discover. So what happens with the mind? Mind wants steps, mind wants training, mind wants which level I have gone. That is what is mind. So how to start, or what is the key which I have found is keep quiet. Half glass, full glass, keep quiet. I do meditation, I am not able to do meditation, keep quiet. I am progressing, not keep quiet. My growth is there, keep quiet. I'm going to be without any illness. Keep quiet. Whatever is there, keep quiet. And that keeping quiet, somehow all these those who have awakened have said the same thing which you are telling, that you become so friendly, so harmonious, so easygoing in the life, all the time smiling. That is the fragrance of keeping quiet. Keep quiet is the only thing.
Just be. I think
Yes,
the state
just
of
be.
being, just be. That
Just
would
be.
be properly like to say that.
Yeah. So
So
there
I
are so
think,
many. Time and again, I am sending couple of links to Minakshi Ben,
yes, of
and I'm
course.
sharing all those things. And all those people are with the same
Yeah,
light.
there's a whole lot of poetry, like there's like mindful poetry,
Right.
even it's starting with Rudyard Kipling's If, but this mindful poetry, there are a whole lot of spoken poetry also. So
Yeah.
it's mindfulness is everywhere. So we
Good.
have to keep our mind. We should have mindfulness, not mindful. That's how
There is nothing to keep. There is no
right,
keeper,
right.
because the
That's
witness is itself is
yes,
not having anybody else who is keeping. That is what we have
very
said
true.
very clearly about the Adi Shankaracharya. There is a
Right,
non-duality. That is so. What will happen? Keeping quiet is very well said. If you can understand
very
what
true.
happens at the last, what happens when you keep quiet, keep quiet. If it occurs as samadhi, then it is also not true, because I witness samadhi, so I am not samadhi. But what happens at the end? Itself talks to itself about itself.
There are
That is what we should.
lovely videos of Jiddu Krishnamurti. Very,
Yes,
very nice talks about what
very
he
very
explained.
interesting subject.
Of
Very
course, there are a
interesting.
whole lot of videos like
All
that,
of these.
and it's never ending like that. But that's what it's all, being in union with the cosmos. That's about
Yes.
the presence and the purpose of life. And how you live your life depends entirely on you and nobody
And
else.
very much talked about GABA. GABA is very much known to the sciences. I mean, scientists. Is a GABA, uh, uh, gamma aminobutyric acid. It is something like what we have a glucose for our energy. The energy for mind is GABA. It is a similar one which you have very well said. People talk about other hormones, but not GABA. You talked very well about GABA. Yes.
Very
Good.
true, very true,
Yeah.
doctor.
So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock and
Yeah, it's
time
10
to
o'clock
wind
and
up,
it's
doctor.
yeah. So thank you for making us aware about this possibility that it's a big science